Alright, replacing an alternator on a 2014 Ford Flex. First, always disconnect the battery. And then you have to remove the intake housing and go from there. This hose clamp and this electrical connector right here. And then make sure you get this little port on the back. Not sure exactly what that is, but this hose has to come off so you can take this whole assembly off. There are two clips down here that hold the top of the air intake box down. You need to unclip those, and then you can pull it out and lift it off like that. Now this electrical cord is still connected by one of those push-in plastic connectors. And you'll have to pull that out if you want to remove this out of the way. A flat screwdriver and a pair of pliers work well to pry that out of the hole, and then you can move on to the next thing. You want to take the filter out. Now's a good time to replace it if you need one. I just did this one. I'm actually putting an alternator in for the second time. The replacement was bad from the vendor. And then you have to pull, there's two bolts here for the air intake through the grill, and then one more bolt right here that you have to get to that connects the box to the intake. So I'm going to do that now. I'm using a 5/16 socket to get these two bolts loose. And the third bolt is right here in line with this clip. So I have to keep the wire out of the way, and then you can get the socket on there to remove the bolt. I've got that bolt out. Now I'll just simply lift up on this a little bit. Sorry, I had to use two hands. There's two little plug bolts in there. You just pull this little flap up and out of the way, and now you can remove the whole unit. The best way I found to get this alternator out, which is down here, right there, is to remove the radiator fan. Now there are only two bolts that hold in the radiator fan. One is down, just beyond the hose, right there. You can just, if I can get my hand on it, right there where the light is. And the other one is right at the top at the other corner. It is also a 5/16 socket needed for that, at least on my vehicle. I'm going to remove those, and then we'll move on. Alright, I have those two bolts out. Now there are a few connectors that hold the wiring harness in around this fan. So you need to undo, there's one here, one here. There are two up under here, these white ones that are just wrapped in electrical tape that hold it on. There's another gray plastic one, and they're like zip ties. If you can find the little lever, you can stick a small screwdriver, a small flathead screwdriver like this. Oh, if I can get it. Like this. I apologize. To get in there and release the lever that locks in the zip. So you can do that. There is also two plugs on mine. I have two fans on mine. The one plug is here, down towards the bottom on the left. And the other one, the other plug, is down here where that wire comes up right here. So you'll have to get those unplugged as well, and then you can start to wiggle free this fan, which isn't the easiest. There's also a coolant line here that is just held in by a clip, Be careful not to break it off. I actually broke part of my tab in here. It still holds the hose, but just be mindful of that when you're moving it around. Okay, I forgot there are 2 more connectors that hold the wire that goes down to the fan on the left. And here's one there. Can you see it? And where is it? There we go. There's one there. There's one down there. Let's see if I can do it. Set my phone in here. Point to it with the screwdriver. Where are we at? Nope. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect those 2, and then I'll show you once I get the radiator out where they're at. Alright, I found a way to show you. So we've got this one right here. You're going to take a flathead screwdriver and you're going to carefully pry up on the bottom of it, and then it should pop out just like that. Just be careful not to break your fan housing, because it is plastic. And then I'm going to get down in there and get the other one. Okay, I got that one. It's 2 disconnected. Now the whole radiator fan assembly is loose, and you have to navigate it out by moving your coolant line up, and try not to snag it on everything else on the way. Just take your time. Gravity's working against you when you're pulling it out, so just be patient. Don't cause any more problems than what you've already got. Okay, I've got, if you're standing in front of the vehicle, the left side of the fan up. I had to, this big electrical line here was punched in here. I relieved those so I could move it back and out of the way to get this end of the fan up first, and then just be mindful of how you do it. That radiator hose you're going to struggle with. You may choose to take it off. I've chosen not to because it's pretty flexible. Almost out. Just run it nice and easy, and you can get it out. There, I've got it out. I struggled. There was one more clip down at the bottom that I could not reach, and I did not feel like climbing underneath the car to disconnect it. This is about 93 degrees out today, and I'm inside an unair conditioned garage. Now I can show you how to disconnect the clips from the fans. What you're going to need is take your flathead screwdriver, and you got to stick it in right in here like so, and then you can pull it right out. That's easy. One's on the bottom and one's kind of on the top. Now we can get down to the business part. First we have to take the belt off, and that big piece right there is our tensioner. So you're going to take a 3-inch breaker bar, 3/8 inch breaker bar, sorry, and there is a square hole that you can stick that into at the top of that tensioner, and you're going to pull it towards you to relieve the pressure on the belt, and then the belt will come right off. I have the alternator, AC pump, and one more pulley back there. So I'm going to do that now. See, I have my breaker bar in the square hole, and then I can pull it and remove the belt. So now I have my belt off. It was a little tricky to do with holding the camera in one hand. But there's the alternator right there, and I will get you socket sizes. You can see one stud sticking out right there. See if I can reach it. Reach in there and point to it. here's one stud right here, and there is a nut on there, so you have to back that nut off, and then you can choose to take the stud out or not. There is a hex on the end of it. Last time I took it out, I'm going to try and leave it in this time and see how it does. I will let you know. And then there is another bolt down on the bottom side here, which is the stationary bolt. You have to unbolt and pull out this way. So they are both 15 millimeter. You will need a 15 millimeter extension socket to get the top nut off, and then you can use a regular length 15 millimeter to get the bottom bolt out. There is no nut on the back side. The nut is captured in the part itself. So you can see the nut is captured in the alternator, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And this is where that stud goes in. Puts it in here. That stud, that single stud, sits in here, and then the one that you could remove is in there, and then your bolt slides in here, screws into that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those and unplug the connector. You'll have to unplug, I'm guessing maybe this is the ground, I'm not 100% certain. Maybe it's, I don't know, I'm not a car expert, but I know you have to disconnect that, and then there's an electrical plug here that you have to disconnect as well. Okay, I was mistaken. You cannot use a regular length 15 millimeter socket to get the bottom bolt out. You need to use your extension socket. I don't know what I was thinking. The nut on the wire on the top of the alternator here, you can pull the plastic back, slide it down, is a 13 millimeter, and then you'll have another plug to undo right there. So 13, and then that plug, and then we can pull it out. So an update on that post that goes in the top of the alternator. It is a 7 millimeter that you have to use to get that off. I attempted, but for fear of breaking it off or messing up the threads, I decided to pull it because it was beginning to be a struggle. So we'll pull that stud out with a 7 millimeter, and now it should slide right out. So after you get your nuts out and your bolt, the only thing you had left to do is take this electrical connector off, and the easiest way to do that was turn it against its side, gently against the radiator, press down on this little tab right here, and it'll pull right off like so. And then all you have to do is get it around the coolant line when you pull it up and out. So now I've got the new one in. I've got to put the bolts in, and just make sure that you hook all your connections back up, and make sure you clean out your air intake with a clean rag so that you don't have any debris that might have fallen. Maybe a better idea would be to take a clean rag and gently put it in there so you don't have to worry about any debris getting in. And then just make sure you get everything hooked back up, as I'm going to take the time to do here. So an update, I've got my second replacement alternator in the car, and now I still have a check charging system warning light. I've had it to the dealership and they said bad alternator on the first replacement. So I got a second one, put it in. Now I still have the same warning light. Haven't been able to figure it out. Maybe somebody out there knows what it is. I am at a loss. Gonna send it back to the dealership on Monday. Hopefully they can get it figured out. I will try and post an update once I get it figured out. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps for replacing an alternator on a 2014 Ford Flex. I happen to have an SEL all-wheel drive. Do know that there are two alternators available, 175 and a 200. Make sure you get the right one for your vehicle. Thanks for watching.